Hello and welcome out to this episode of Outbreak Gamers. I'm your host, David Anthony, or WEBDAVE is my gamer tag, and I am got with me today. We're going to have to get into the name too. I'm just saying, right? We're going to have to figure that out. Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere. Fuzzy, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me. It's
Oh
great to
man,
be
you are
here.
most welcome. This is going to be fun, man. I've seen you on a lot of podcasts, and like I said, at some point we will get into your gamer tag. Just saying. I got to know. There's got to be a story behind
Yeah.
that, and I want to find out what that is. Got the ticker running at the bottom, so people can jot those things down. But there'll also be in the show notes below description. Just check that out. They'll have all the links to all the podcasts that you're on, and your Twitter, so people can follow you there as well. You got a pretty nice little following base there. So
Awesome.
anyway, Fuzzy
Thank
Belvedere, welcome, sir. How are you doing today?
Been pretty good. Still getting in some good times with Gran Turismo and actually a couple other games. Although Elden Ring, not one of them just yet.
Just yet, yeah.
We'll eventually fall into that one as well.
It's a deep hole, man. It sucks you in pretty hard. I'll tell you that. But I noticed you've posted a lot of the Gran Turismo, and I guess like you with your gamer tag, you got the racing goggles on there, and
Mhm.
so that's cool. So man, you've been a big fan of Gran Turismo, just to kind of start things off, I guess, for a while, or
Uh,
just
I
racing
guess
games in
with
general.
the beginning of PlayStation, I've been into racing games in general for forever. I've been a car nut or car fan pretty
Mm-hmm.
much most of my life. Like
Nice.
I think my uncle is the one that first got me hooked. My parents took me out to visit him out in Riverhead, Long Island. He used to do weekend races at the Riverhead Raceway against like the Bodines, who eventually made it up the
Wow.
ladder in
Yes.
NASCAR and stuff. And he won one of the blunderbuss races, which is basically you take a junk car, but you put a hopped up engine in it, and you
Mm-hmm.
you know run a few laps. And he won. And
That's
after he
cool.
won, I got to hold on to the roll cage in the back, and the smelling of burnt rubber and the sound of that V8. Yeah, I think I was hooked ever since. I don't think it helped my eardrums very much, but
Mm.
yeah, I've been hooked on cars ever since. And things like Outrun and pole position and a whole variety of car games from that point forward have kind of got me hooked on racing and gaming in general.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I'm a big fan of like Ridge Racer, the arcade machine.
Mhm.
God, man, I used to don't know how much money I dumped into that thing. I'm I wish they would. That's one of those games I wish they would bring back. And it seems,
Yeah.
but I just because I was a big fan of it. I enjoyed it a lot. I know it just came back recently on it was one of the I guess backwards compatible dumps for the Xbox
Yes. Yeah.
recently, and I was like, I don't have the disc anymore. I'll buy it, and that's that's what I did, man. I just had to have it. So I think it was number 6, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm with you on the racing games and the cars in general, man. I've had so many cars in my life. Everything from a Porsche to a Hummer to
Ooh, nice.
the guy. Let's see. Recent had a 2015 Nissan 370Z.
Oh,
Loved the Z. It was so much fun, but
yes.
it was actually I let it go so my wife could get a new car, and
Hmm.
then I have my sights on I call it my final car, which is going to be
It's never the final car.
well, I told her, I said it'll be the final car unless it breaks down or has a wreck. Somebody hits me, can't stop that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna get a Camaro eventually. Again, I've had
Oh,
one before, but
nice.
I just need a new one. Just need it. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. So, sir, man, I appreciate you coming on today. So Fuzzy,
Hmm.
let's get into. I guess start off with. I guess what kind of jobs and stuff have you had in your career? What have you done, and what can you talk about? And do you have a career that we can actually talk about? Because
Yes.
oh, good, okay. Well, I was talking to Boxing Burger, and apparently he's secret agent man. So we'll tune into that episode. That's interesting. But no,
Yeah.
I'm just messing. But
Well, my
go ahead.
jobs list is kind of on the short side, only because the job I recently retired from, I've been there for like 23 years. But prior to that, my first very first job where I got paid more than just like an allowance fee or anything like that was to work for Taco Bell. And a friend of mine got me the job. And it wasn't a bad job. It was reasonable. But, and this is going to probably sound weird, I'm a fan of fast food, or at least my 16-year-old self was a big fan of fast food.
No, no,
And when I
not a problem
found
at all.
out that you're not supposed to throw the refried beans out, you're just supposed to add water, per the manager,
Oh
for the
yeah.
ones that were made a day later, I was like, you know what? I like food. I don't want to know how it's made. I can't be here because it will it will
Yep.
ruin it will ruin it for me. And I always looked at jobs as one of those things where it's like the benefit was, oh, I got a free lunch, a free Taco Bell lunch, which looking back at it now, it's like, man, I was playing with fire back then. But
Yeah. No, oh, dude, I'm right there with you. So we won't have Taco Bell as a sponsor tonight. I'm just kidding. That's okay.
no,
I
but
understand that point you made, though. Just to worked at a place when in my youth that was kind of like a buffet type place. They
mhm,
cook steaks and everything, but
yeah,
and this was I worked there a couple of weeks, and I like you, I was out of there. They're uh, little tin cups
mhm,
with chocolate pudding and whipped cream on top, and then have them out there for the buffet, And
yeah,
at the end of the night, if there was any left, 2, 3, or a couple of dozen, they would take those and scrape them into a bowl,
mhm.
mix it up, scoop them back out, and put fresh Cool Whip for the next day on them.
Ooh.
After I saw that, I was like, I don't know how deep that rabbit hole goes. I don't never have had pudding at a restaurant again. Just saying.
Yeah,
There's not time for jelly pudding.
yeah.
So, but yeah, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No,
but I'm right there with you, man. That mixing back up food. No,
yeah.
thank you.
No, I couldn't do it after that. But my next job, just after high school, was working at Modell's. And this is going to probably sound weird. It's a term my parents used to use, clothes horse, like somebody that's big into clothes and shoes and whatnot.
Hmm.
And being a kid that lives like just outside the city in Pennsylvania, born in New York, but moved to Pennsylvania about like just before I turned teenage. It was like, oh, I gotta have the newest Reebok pumps, and I gotta have the latest Nike Air sneakers and Levi's jeans and all that. And that costs money. And having a job at a place where you can get a discount on the clothes seemed like it was a good idea. And it wasn't bad. It was honest work, but it was one of those things where I missed, I guess, a calling to some extent because I worked in the menswear department because the best place to work was either the register or in footwear. And there were no positions available at the time. So I was like,
Right.
oh, yeah, I can work in menswear, no problem. Put Levi's jeans out there that I get, almost 30% off when I go take half my paycheck and rebuy clothes or buy clothes there. Sure, no problem. But
Yep.
one of the guys in footwear got sick. So they put me in footwear to kind of cover for him, and he was mainly the morning shift, which is like the least busy hour. Weekends, it's murder. It's like 10 customers per each employee type of thing. But during the weekday, like Monday through Friday, from opening up until like 3 or 5 p.m., it's like maybe 5 customers. And the thing that they teach you in footwear is, sell the sneakers, watch the customers, make sure they don't walk out with the shoes, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And you got to upsell, shoelaces and the cleaner or the protectant. And I didn't know much about sales, but I kind of knew stuff about clothes and stuff back then and how people perceive them. So me being the clothes horse I am, buying the clothes from Modell's and wearing them like Champion sweatshirts because that were popular back then, and Levi's jeans, which were $40 and $50, but I think they were selling them for like 35 or so. So it was a little bit cheaper than like your typical places. But Modell's at that time where I was working was only known for like sneakers and starter jackets. And it was usually like that second choice store because City Blue was right up the street. And if they didn't have the sneakers you wanted, maybe Modell's would have them. So those people already come in there kind of like, I just wanted to see if you had my size because, City Blue didn't type of thing and whatnot. And a lot of times I'm wearing the same sneakers that they're looking for. It's like, oh yeah, we got those. And I know we got a 9.5 in the back or a 10.5 in the back.
Right.
And they're like, where'd you get that sweatsuit or where'd you get that champion shirt? Because, like I said, nobody knew that Modell's really carried anything other than starter jackets when they were very popular back then, or
Right.
the sneakers. So I was like, oh, yeah, we got clothes upstairs. They're like, you have them upstairs? And this was one of those weird stores on 69th Street in Upper Darby. I'm pretty sure not many people know about Pennsylvania area, but if they do, it 69th Street is like like just outside of the city, but it's like the suburban version of the city marketplace type of thing. And to have a Modell's that pretty much you only see like the starter jackets and sneakers to know that they have a full upstairs of clothes and stuff. When I would tell people, it's like, oh yeah. And since there's no other customers, well, let me show you where I got the sweatsuit or where I got the sweatshirt from or the Levi's jeans and stuff.
That's
So
cool.
when they're when they're going to the checkout, they're talking about, oh, you know, oh, you got all these extra things. So that goes on the commission slip. Now, like I said before, they only tell you your commission is mainly supposed to be like the shoelaces and the cleaner. So your average person's commission is like off of like 10, 12 bucks, 16 bucks or so. I'm having
Right.
$200 commissions.
Whoa.
And they're like,
Awesome.
where's all this stuff coming from? And sure enough, I guess the Modell's brothers started taking notice. So they actually came to the store. And around that time, like I had already committed to go into the military. And this was kind of like that stopgap before I went to college type of thing,
Hmm.
where I had already did my basic training in AIT and stuff. And this was like and I was Army Reserves, not full time.
Hmm.
And this was like my day-to-day job for spending money while, I go to my mutas on the weekends, 1 weekend a month type of thing for the reserves. But, being in the military and going in originally with the plan that I was going to be a sergeant, just like my dad, or like a first sergeant, like my dad was and stuff. And then I saw how like officers, no knock on ROTC in any way, shape, or
Right.
form, but it's
Right.
like they come in from college and it's like they're instantly your boss. And I'm like, hey, I could do that. I can go to college and do this stuff. So I had already committed that I was going to eventually go to Valley Forge Military Academy and
Wow.
college to get my 2-year commission, because that way I wasn't too far behind the power curve where ROTC is typically a 4-year. They do a 2-year, and then you have your commission for your last 2 years at your 4-year school. So when the Modell's brothers were like, hey, would you like to be an assistant manager at this store? I was like, I'm sorry, I kind of already have to start school over at Valley Ford. So kind of missed my calling there at Modell's, which, looking back, it's like, man, I could have probably been district manager at some point the way I was
Wow.
going that fast. Like I had
Still
only
makes
been
you
there.
feel good though, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
that they thought that much of you. That's awesome.
But yeah, it was looking back at it, it was pretty cool. But went to the military, then met my wife, and the commission that I was so strongly pursuing, I had to kind of kiss it goodbye because she was enlisted, and that was around the time when they were like, either get married or break it off, and I wasn't the one for military. Other than telling me commands on what normally to do, but like life stuff, I'm like, what? No, I'm not.
Right.
Just let my original contract finish out and go from there. But by the way, I've been married to my wife for like 23 years, so I'm pretty sure I made the
Congratulations.
right choice at
I
that
think you
point.
did too. And thank you for your service, by the way. Just want to
Thank
throw that
you,
in there.
thank
Hey,
you.
no, it's awesome. I appreciate that.
But yeah, went. I was in Army Reserves for like 8 years. Worked at Modell's. I think it was like at that point for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years total. Um, Taco Bell, I said, was 2 weeks, and then after I finished with my military service, I was like, you know what? I need a job where I can start at the ground floor, because I didn't finish my last years of college. I was kind of like, you know what? I need somewhere where I can start in at the ground floor, but have a lot of room to grow, like a small company. And I found that with aftermarket automotive company in my area. And I had just bought a Jeep, and they sold Jeep parts. And I'm like, oh, this sounds perfect.
Oh no,
So
another paycheck grab.
so I applied there. It actually, I think I applied 3 times, but they had just moved to a bigger warehouse the third time, because I figured I'll give them a third try. Because it's like, man, I'm pretty sure when I walk out the door, they were either throwing my resume in the garbage or something. But luckily, I caught the right guy at the right time by buying a hat for my vehicle. And I was like, oh, are you guys hiring? He's like, sure enough, we are. We just moved into this big warehouse. So let me get you the warehouse manager. And pretty much they hired me on the spot. And 23
Nice.
years later, I
Yeah.
wound
Sounds
up
like it worked
retiring
out.
from there. But started in the warehouse, made it to uh, was it international exports within 6 months, and then customer service within the year, and ran the call center within 2 years, and then after that, pretty much was their web content manager for a majority of those last, I guess you could say 15 years or so.
Right, right,
Just putting everything that's online as far as imagery, description, product lines, organizing the categories and stuff like that. Didn't do much of the back end stuff. Like I was still learning that, kind of like self-taught. Like keep in mind, MySpace was like the best teacher I had for HTML back then.
right.
So a lot of that stuff I kind of learned as I went along, type of thing. And yeah, did that for a number of years and got kind of good at it. And then I think I reached the point of burnout at some point, and it would just seem like I'm not doing anybody any good, just kind of being in the same spot. I was like, I think it's time for me to retire. But yeah, September of this past year, it was like, okay,
Wow,
I got my 20-year watch, got
nice.
enough money in the bank. All right, I'm gonna retire. Retired,
Well,
be stay at
congratulations.
home dad, and now my wife's on her kind of like her second career as a school teacher. So it's like, yeah, I did my 20 years. I think I deserve a retirement,
Heck
and
yeah.
she's going to do her. Well, she's probably only going to do about 10 years before she retires as a school teacher. But she's already got 6 out of the way, so she's close to 20 in for teaching. But
Right, right. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome. So I guess with you being retired, that's more time for gaming, huh?
yes, yes.
Ah.
I
Works
mean,
out, doesn't it?
it's
Yeah.
a lot of time for like at home stuff. Like I'm now the chauffeur for the kids going to school
Right.
because their school bus seems to always be late. Like this just past year, it was like I think out of 50 days, it was only on time twice. And the boys this year, they're doing dual enrollment, so they have to catch the school bus to go to school, to catch another bus to go to college for the morning classes, and then they catch the bus midday to go back to the high school. And for the most part, I was like, you know what? I'm not having them run late, and then you guys are having to run to catch this bus, or this bus leaves without you, and all this stuff. And it didn't seem like the school district was doing anything about it. So I was like, you know what? I could just take you guys in. Let me just do that. Make sure you guys
Nice.
get there in time and whatnot. So being the like stay at home dad is kind of definitely a different role, but it's giving me more time with them and getting me more involved and making sure that they're keeping their grades up like they should. And I'm
Right.
pretty sure um, they enjoy the rewards that they get from it, because I try to reward them for good grades. And the fact that they're doing dual enrollment is like the biggest like proud moment I have as a dad, type of thing. So it's like,
Most definitely.
yeah, they're like, you guys are. I haven't told them yet, but I'm like, you guys are way ahead of where I was when I was your guys' age. So, yeah. Oh, new Xbox, yeah, yeah. You got straight A's, yeah. Okay, yeah, no problem. But
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that because I definitely my daughter. I tell her all the time. It's like you have so many opportunities that I didn't have because so keep pushing. It's awesome. So yeah, so
yeah,
that's great, man. That's awesome that you got them on a sounds like a very good path. Uh, so that's
my
awesome.
wife is probably the better suited one,
Ah,
only because she's the teacher. I'm
right.
I'm kind of the math guy and the computer
Fun
guy,
dad. You're a fun
but
dad.
yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Awesome. So I guess let's go into how you got into gaming. Like, what was your first kind of gaming experience or a system
Mhm.
or what was it that I started on the 2600. Then there you go. So what's your story, buddy?
I it's kind of along the same lines. Like there's the 2600, which my sister, who my brother and sister are way older than me, and not
Hmm.
to sound like the whoops baby or anything, but like my brother was 24 and my sister was 19 when I was born. So I came much later along. So they were already grown. My brother had already moved out the house. My sister was getting ready to move out the house, and she bought a 2600. And like my whole family was into gaming of some form. Like my
Right.
dad was more of the crossword puzzle guy, but he also would play like a little handheld like poker game or card game things, like the little electronic handhelds. And my mom was big into that, and she was big into Pac-Man and like I don't know if you remember like the little Pac-Man home arcade thing that looked like a little mini Pac-Man.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a little joystick thing on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she had that, and my
Cool.
sister had the stand-up arcade one, the small one, the little mini one, and then she bought the 2600. My brother was always into computers as a programmer and stuff like that, but
That's cool.
um, it was like a cross between my sister with the 2600 and my brother taking me and picking me up sometimes from elementary school. There was a store like right next door to the elementary school, and they had Tempest as their arcade at least at that time. Now they changed it over the years, but that was one of the first arcade games, and I was just hooked. It's like, oh, a spaceship that shoots things and you're going around circles and all these other shapes and it zooms in and all that stuff. That was just awesome at that point. And yeah, I needed the stepping stool to kind of reach the joystick and see everything. But
Cute.
that was like the highlight. Like after school, if my brother picked me up, yeah, I'm going there and I can probably drop a couple of quarters in it. Mom wasn't so keen on that. She would be more like, okay, after you know, do reading time and stuff. It's like, okay, you can play Pac-Man on the, the little Pac-Man thing she had until she bought me one of my own. But yeah, that was like the start of it. Although I never really saw my dad play games, but he'll come into the story a little bit more later as far as how he definitely nudged me a little bit more in that direction. But
Very cool.
my my first system was ColecoVision, and it was it was kind of like a weird deal because I think the whole family kind of chipped in. I was the spoiled brat, obviously being the youngest one. My brother helped chip in, my sister helped chip in, and it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, I got Coleco, I think I got Zaxxon, had Donkey Kong, had Smurfs, Peo Paint thing, and a couple of other games I can't remember now, but
That's
that was
awesome.
like my first video game system as like a Christmas gift type of thing. So that was like my I guess you could say hook to video games at home. And then
Hmm.
later on, I think it was before Sega came into the picture, was the Aquarius computer, which my brother being into computers, my dad seeing that I had an interest for computers and gaming and stuff, he bought me this Aquarius computer, which I don't think many people even knew what that thing was, but think of it as like an Intellivision, but with a keyboard and a little bit more computing power to do computer stuff.
Cool.
So that was like the surprise the following Christmas. And I think from that, I learned how to make like visual games, like where it'd be like, all right, change the picture from red to blue and stuff like that. Although
That's cool.
I didn't really put much of that to use until much later, but that was like the highlight of getting into gaming and computers and stuff in general. And then shortly after that, I think is when Nintendo first came into market, the first NES, and that's what my sister got. And I just remember, Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers on that, and how addicting the music was and the gameplay was and stuff like that. So then I was like, oh, I need to get something, but like also being an arcade kid, I think around that time, Outrun, being a car fanatic,
Hmm.
Outrun was out there and stuff like that, which um, just a little bit of backstory on me being a car fanatic. I don't know if I made mention um, as far as like with my uncle racing in NASCAR
Go ahead.
with basically when I was like 4 years old. My uncle used to race out in Riverhead Raceway out in New York or out in
Hmm.
Long Island, and used to race against the Bodines and stuff. And it was just one of those things where
Nice.
he would have like they called them blunderbuss. So it was basically like a junk car, but you put a hopped up motor in it and stuff like that. And basically, he won one of the races that my family went down to visit them and stuff. And with him winning, they threw me in the back, and I'm holding on to the roll cage, and he's doing a burnout, and the smell of burning rubber, the fuel, the sound. May not have been good for the ears, but pretty much been hooked on cars ever since. So that led me to
Pretty
like
exciting stuff.
so that led me to games like Outrun and things like that. So when Outrun was in the arcade, and then the Sega Master System was announced, and that was one of their like launch titles and things like that, I was like, oh, I gotta have that, and gotta have Hang On, and gotta have Afterburner and stuff like that. Which, yes, they didn't look anything like they did in the arcade, but at that point, you kind of have those like, fun glasses on where it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
almost as good as it is in the arcade,
You
but it's on
squint a
my
little bit.
TV.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, man.
But yeah, I got the Sega Master System. And then I did something crazy, which I didn't know you're not supposed to do. While holding the controller, I touched the TV screen. And like my dad and brother always used to tell me, never touch the TV. You get static and all that stuff. And I, for whatever reason, I think I was playing Shinobi, touched the TV for something because I think I was pointing out where I was supposed to go. And I heard
Oh.
something pop. And then from that point forward, that Sega Master System, not just the controller, but that port, which was player one's port, would always go to the left. So that side scrolling game, you're supposed to go to the right. So with me going to the left, I don't think they had warranties back then. So my brother had to chip in and get me a new Master System when that happened. So I got a replacement one.
Right.
And never touched a TV screen or came close to touching the TV screen ever since.
Don't touch the screen. That's so funny. Yeah, but I mean, well, lesson learned, right?
Yeah.
And even then, TVs today probably wouldn't have happened. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no,
True.
that's cool. I remember we used to take a magnet to the TV, and those didn't last too long after that. What's wrong with the TV? I have no idea, Dad. Don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Oops.
No, but after Sega Master System, pretty much I was hooked on the Sega brand. So I picked up the Sega Genesis, and like a knucklehead, I also picked up the Sega CD. And I think at that point,
I love
I
it.
was using allowance money. So it was like I was going all in, had the Sega CD, Sega 32X, and then they released a Saturn. I was like, oh no.
On your Sega CD, did you have Night Trap?
No, I didn't. That was one of those games. It's like, oh, it's got all that
Too
controversy,
mature.
and I was kind of interested, but I was like,
Yeah.
nah.
Oh, I had it.
I was more about the Joe Montana football,
Oh, great
and
game, man! I
then
love that game.
that back then, like we talk about the graphics on games now, like EA with their the next gen patch that they did for what was it, Madden 21. I mean
Right.
that's a big step, but if you look back at video games, as far as like even the football games like Techno Football or something like Techno Bowl back then versus Joe Montana football, it was like this is like watching TV. I mean, it wasn't, but it was like
Right.
so far, of a leap in comparison. And I think I also, being into racing, I bought I think it was called Jaguar X220, which was based on like their prototype race car, and that game was like on the level of like arcade looks as far as at least per my eyes back then. And it was just so much fun playing that on Sega CD. And then 32X I mainly bought for Doom because I didn't have a computer back then. Like I think at that point the Commodore 128 that I had, I kind of outgrew to some extent, and trying to put Doom on that wasn't going to fly, or at least the newer Doom at that point in time. But I think I learned my lesson shortly after after buying all those accessories. The Saturn came out, and then that I think was like pretty much my last Sega console, because it just seemed like Sega was in a rush to put out hardware and then not support it as well as they should have, let's just say, because new competition was arising at that point.
I'm with you right there, because I remember, it's like seems like I just got the Saturn all good to go, and and just felt like a few years later, here comes the Dreamcast, and so but I had it. I had to get it too.
No.
So what was up for you after the Sega Saturn? Where did you go?
I went to PlayStation 1, the original PlayStation at that point. And I think it was mainly because I was, as a console fanboy, I think I was a little pissed off at Sega at that point because I had spent all my allowance money at that point on that.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Because the household was always a Sony household, like with the exception of TVs. We were Zenith TVs, made in America.
Oh yeah.
TVs, big console TVs and stuff. But everything else, like radios, Walkmans, the Sony Sports Walkman and stuff like that. Yeah, everything else was Sony. The record player, tape players, all that stuff. So I was like, oh, they're gonna make a video game system. And I don't think I knew the whole backstory of their fallout with Nintendo at the time, but it's kind of funny looking back at it now.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, I the 3DO was like out of my price range. Neo Geo definitely out of my price range. TurboGrafx 16, it was kind of like I wanted to get that, but I think at that point it was like either get that or get the PlayStation 1. And I think I put my bet on Sony over TurboGrafx at that point. So I went with the PlayStation 1, was happy with it until I saw my brother's PC, because Dell was just coming out at that point. And being a big NASCAR fan and car fan in general, but NASCAR in particular, he I bought NASCAR on the PlayStation 1. He bought it on his new Dell computer. Now, keep in mind, PlayStation 1 was like $200 or something like that back then. His computer was like $2,000 back then. And it was like a night and day difference for the same game, both made by Papyrus.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them supposedly I guess it was like the 99 season or something like that. Or maybe it was the one before the 99 season. It had to be like 96 or 97 range, like they're one of their first NASCAR titles or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, after that, I kind of stopped with consoles. Like the PlayStation 1 was my last console for a bit. Then I hopped on the PC train, because at that point, I want to say I was already I had already started at the one place I worked for 23 years. So I was like, all right, I got a credit card now. Let me go get my Dell ordered, and went into PC master race for a little bit. And I was that bad example that they say, oh, nobody upgrades their video card every year. And me being a knucklehead, I don't know if I upgraded them every year, but it was like,
we're pretty close.
Yeah, like new Voodoo cards out. Yeah, I'm getting it, because at the time I think Voodoo cards were better than both ATI and Nvidia and stuff like that. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll get that. And then I think around Pentium 3 time is when all of the Voodoo card stuff just kind of went into the garbage can, because Intel had made the motherboard companies change. So they went on to a whole new system as far as video card attachments. And yeah, I think at that point I was kind of like, yeah, I need to get back to consoles. This is getting too expensive too quick. And PS3 was the next one. Fell in love with PS3, even though people were bad mouthing it about, its price and stuff. But it was like it was easily available compared to Nintendo Wii, which it's like you'd have to wait outside a store for 3 days to get a Wii back then. But a PlayStation, oh yeah, $500. Yeah. We have a whole bunch of them. Oh, and the $600 one, yeah, we have a whole bunch of those too. Not knowing that was like, because nobody's buying it type of thing, at least at that early stage. But But me being, kind of hooked on Sony in general at that point, I was like, yeah, I'll get the PS3. Bought my niece a PS3, and
cool.
Changed out the hard drive. Learned the hard way that some of the PC tactics, as far as having a faster hard drive, don't work necessarily in consoles, because they were like, oh, you can change the hard drive, and I think they were running 5,200 RPM, and I tried putting a 9,600 RPM hard drive in there, and I'm like, why am I getting all these errors? Why is it? Oh, it works for like 3 hours and then it doesn't work. What's going on? And I'm like, oh, it has to be another 5,200. Why would they limit it to the 5,200?
Right.
But, yeah, PlayStation 3, that was my next console. And then it was like an easy transition to go from PS3 to PS4. Although at that point I was kind of getting, I wouldn't say upset with PlayStation, but like me being a big Grand Theft Auto person, I realized Grand Theft Auto 5, when it first released on like PlayStation 3 versus 360, which it was kind of weird. I wanted to avoid Xbox because of what they were doing in the PC space. Although after talking to Kay Asante, it kind of all makes sense as far as what they were doing. Because if you look back at like Windows 98, great for gaming, and then Windows ME was terrible for gaming. And then it was like I think it was Windows XP was great for gaming, and then Windows Vista not so great for gaming for PC and stuff. So I was like, why would I bother with that company if they seem to like have this up and down with software for PC gaming? Why would they be able to do something decent on a console? And then everybody at work is like, oh yeah, I got the Xbox. And it's like, didn't realize that was probably the better way to go until I saw Grand Theft Auto 5, where things like the sails on sailboats or the flags in the background, like when you're around certain properties and stuff like that, actually blow in the wind on the 360, and on the PS3, they either weren't visible or didn't move.
Right.
So I was like, this doesn't make sense. Now they eventually, I think, patched it towards the end, but that was after like the PS4 had finally come out. So I was like, all right, I'll get a PS4.
For the time, it looked amazing, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh, like Grand Theft Auto 5 for PS3 era was like next level, it seemed. And
Definitely.
then when you saw what it looked like on like the Xbox One and PS4, it looked like it took it to an even whole new level. Like you look back at what it was like on the PS3 and 360, and it's like, did I have Vaseline on my eyes or something? What was wrong with me before? But picked it up on the PS4, and then PS4. I think the big game that I was waiting for was Drive Club, and this is how I kind of fell in love with Xbox shortly after.
Right.
Drive Club was supposed to be a year one release on the PlayStation 4, and it got delayed. Which games get delayed, no big deal. I'll wait. It looked exciting. It was like an online racing game. You're going to have leaderboards and stuff, and that was like a whole new thing. That was, I mean, more so on the PlayStation end of things. I had no idea what Forza was doing back then, but on the PlayStation end of things, that was new. That you didn't really have leaderboards. Like it was like you could show your friends what your times were for Gran Turismo and things like that, but I don't think they really had like shareable leaderboards, at least what I can remember, even with having PS Plus or whatever it was called back then when it was free.
Mm-hmm.
But when they released it a year later, and you figure they're going to fix things, whatever might have been an issue. It didn't. It was supposed to be an online game that didn't work online for 2 whole months, which
It's weird.
in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of time. But it infuriated me because I bought the
Sure.
$100 edition. And they were like, "Oh, we're sorry. We're going to get things fixed." And they tried, and it still didn't work out right for like another month. And they're like, "As a reward or as an apology, we're going to give away some of the content that we put in the deluxe edition." I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I paid $100 for that. You're giving away like 3 months
Hey,
worth of the cars.
thanks,
What,
buddy.
what do I get in return?" And they didn't have
Yeah.
anything for those that bought the deluxe edition. So it was like, that left a bad taste in my mouth at that
I
point.
bet
I
it
was like, what
did.
it was like, oh, this game was supposed to be a Forza killer. What? Let me check out what Forza's really like. And that's when I picked up my Xbox One and saw that they had games like Quantum Break coming out, which I always saw like the trailers for, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I can't wait until that comes out. And was always like wishing for like Dead Rising, although I think I got the second one on PS3 or something like that, and it didn't seem as interesting as the first Dead Rising that I saw trailers for that was only on like the 360 and stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm getting an Xbox One. Got Dead Rising 3, got Forza Horizon 2, Rise, Son of Rome. I got like 5 or 6 games at the time. Oh, and Sunset Overdrive, which I was trying to get the
Great games.
Xbox One in white that came with that standard. Couldn't find one. Like they were like sold out, or you had to camp out at the GameStop or something. I'm like, I'm not doing that. But still wound up buying the game. Just didn't get the console in white, but got it without connects, and been happy ever since. And Forza, like me being a racing fan,
Yeah.
like Gran Turismo 1, and I want to say it was probably was it Prologue 5. And
Yeah.
I think I skipped 6. I skipped Gran Turismo 6 only because at that point it wasn't on PS4, it was on PS3, but the PS4 was already out. I'm like, I'm not breaking out the PS3 again just to play this game. So it was like, I'll just wait until they make another Gran Turismo. And lo and behold, they waited until almost the end with Gran Turismo Sport, which wasn't bad. It has its own rough, patches as far as the beginning always being online and not having as much content, but for single player. But Forza has been, in a way a godsend to me being a racing fan, because like motorsport gives me that fix for like racing on track, like all of my favorite tracks like Daytona, both the road course and the oval.
Oh yeah.
Picked up a lot of NASCAR games in the meantime, like NASCAR Heat, which they've had their ups and downs on that series, but I'm still a fan of NASCAR, so it's all good no matter what. But with Forza Horizon, like getting that Forza Horizon 2, bear in mind, like you always wanted like a real open world with like a Need for Speed and stuff like that. And Forza Horizon 2 offered that. And I'm like, yeah, other than, some of the half walls that you can't break through, which eventually they had it, I guess it was in 4 when they did the breakable walls, which was awesome. They had some breakable trees, I think, in 3, but Forza Horizon 2 was like a whole new world, being open world, being able to cut across the grass. And it's like, oh, I don't have to stay on the roads to get to the next checkpoint. And not necessarily for taking shortcuts for races, but just exploring the
Right.
world.
Oh
And
yeah.
that was a freeing thing. So for the most part, that whole deal got me hooked on Forza for a bit. And ever since I've been a fan. Like I've probably spent more hours playing Forza on my Xbox than probably any other game other than I think the Division 1 and 2, which when Division came out in 2016, I think that was the only game I played every day for one whole year. So I have a
Wow.
ridiculous amount of hours on that particular game. But yeah, for Xbox, I think with going from the Xbox One, my new consoles that I have with them, I have I got the Xbox Series X afterwards, because being a big graphics fan from my PC days, seeing
Hmm.
that they up the hardware to have like 4K visuals, because I got 4K TV at the time, and
Yeah.
to have like a lot more like texture detail on things, I was like, oh yeah, this is where I'm at. So
So
ever
amazing, isn't it?
since then, I kind of picked up from there. I mean, Forza, they improved all the visuals for Motorsport and Horizon 3 for the Series X. So I was or for the Xbox One X and everything. So I was pretty happy with that. But nowadays, my favorite two consoles are my PS5 and my Series X. But right at the moment, I'm playing my PS5 just a little bit more, only because of Gran Turismo. But my Series X, I would say over the past year and a half has probably gotten a heck of a lot more use. Playing like a lot of the games that they've upresed and gone back and done like a HDR patch or a 60 frames patch, like the original Division, which I played for like a year straight.
Right.
Went back to playing that for a bit and still play Division 2, although not too happy with the news I'm hearing that we might not get a Division 3, or that some of the updates for the division might be put on hold with certain staff members leaving and stuff. But
Right.
yeah, just seeing all of the improvements that are like PC level, and yes, PC is always going to have a little bit better graphic fidelity, but it's like at what price point versus a console that you can get for like less than the cost of a video card type of thing. So just seeing a lot of these newer games come out, and sure, some of them are cross-gen and stuff like that, but they still look amazing and play amazing. Now looking back at 30 frames, like before, it was kind of like, oh yeah, this is all right. It's as Jez would say, filmic. It's not bad.
Yep.
And now to go back to that, it's like, oh, I think I'm getting a headache. It's like, is this stuttering? What's going on? So the 60 frames mode or performance modes that we see now, and some of them even getting 120 frames. Although I need to upgrade my TV here soon so I can enjoy that.
I just did that myself 2 weeks ago, and oh my goodness, definitely get you one that can do 120.
Yeah,
Wow, it's huge.
no,
The
but there's
constant 60, it looks amazing.
yeah, no, but the 60 frames now it's like the new go-to, and at some point I'll be on the 120 frames kick as well. My sons, they're fortunate because they have their gaming PC monitors that they use for their Series S's. So
Yeah.
they get I think it was like Warzone, or maybe it was just the Call of Duty Cold Warfare, that they're like, oh, this is so amazing. This is like, next level stuff with 120 frames and whatnot. But man,
Yeah.
it's just amazing that we're able to, squeeze this out of these consoles these days compared to what we had just a couple of years ago, where
Right.
60 frames is like you might get it, and at some point it's going to dip to 50s, but now it's like it's locked at 60, and if you have the right TV, it's like it could be locked at 90, locked at 120, and VRR will keep that thing looking steady with no tears and stuff. So it's
And
just
that's
amazing.
amazing what it's coming to. You're right, man. It is next gen is I mean, and they say there's a lot of things that still haven't really been implemented yet, and we're
Hmm.
getting there. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the new
Oh
the
yes,
Forza 8.
yeah.
That's it's strictly next gen only. It's not going to be for the I don't think it's not going to be for the
That
older consoles.
That's what I'm hearing. Although they have done some tests on the older ones, but I think it's just more so for gameplay stuff.
Right.
But from a visual standpoint, making this thing a ground up build for the Series S and Series X, I think is the right move. And it's not that I was disappointed, but I was hoping that Gran Turismo 7 was going to be kind of the same deal. And it's
Yeah.
not like a console war thing. And it's not
Right.
to, take away from those that have PS4s or haven't been able to come across a PS5. But I know that there are certain limitations that can't be pushed with the previous chipset for the previous consoles. Like right now, Gran Turismo 7, I know a lot of people make fun of it or stuff on some of the clips and things that they put on Twitter, but I've been pretty happy with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there some things that it could improve on? Sure. Or there are
Yeah.
some things that they've greatly improved on? Yes, there's that as well. But my big thing is with what they have now, I think you're still limited or held to the same limits of like what the PS4 could do with only having 20 cars as far as the competitors, which Motorsport 7 I know has had 24. And I was hoping that they would allow for more cars. Not that you need that many cars, but it's just one of those things where I like to do the multi-class racing, where it's like the prototypes versus the GT cars versus like the spec cars and things like that at like a place like Daytona Road Course, and try and navigate between the different classes of cars. You can do that with Motorsport 7, and I was hoping they would have the ability, and you kind of can do it, but it's like if you're only limiting 20 cars, and that means you better only have like 5 prototypes and 5 GT cars and 5 of
Right.
the other type and stuff like that, and 5 cars similar to what you plan on driving type of thing. But
Well, since you've played this game more than anybody that I personally know has played it, and that's and now, like I said, that looks awesome to me, and I
mhm,
would love to play it at some point. Right now, with all the other games coming out, it was a pick and choose, and I'm on
yeah.
Elden Ring, and God bless me for a while, but I'll come back to other gaming things someday.
Yeah.
Starfield. No, I'm kidding. But I'm just kidding. But so like there was a video going around that would shows like the I guess a jump or a
Mhm,
bump and then the car flips. Have you
yeah.
ever had any kind of experience like that when you've played? Because if you've played this much, I would think
Yeah. Now
it's okay. Go ahead.
it can happen. Now here's
Hmm.
probably the biggest thing.
Right.
That video is, and it's not to knock the person, it's someone that's just taking the stock setup and driving on dirt, which, yeah, it may have dirt tires, but
Oh,
anybody that races like Dirt 5 or Dirt or any of the previous Dirt games, you got to adjust the suspension based on the type of track and the
right.
speeds you're going to be going. So
I
I
gotcha.
have a little video clip out there where I have a F-150 Raptor, which being in the automotive aftermarket, I'm like, oh yeah, you got to make those things as not really squishy, but so the vehicle stays level, but the whole suspension, the axles are the ones that bounce up and down while the vehicle stays level. So you soften
Right.
things up a lot, and you set certain limits as far as the travel, and that's what I did. So it's like you can see I'm flying on that track, and I'm not flipping over, but
Yeah.
if someone that's not familiar with like sim racing or simcade racing, and they just use the stock setup, yeah, they if they take a turn or take a bump too fast, yeah, they're going to flip. But that's in
Yeah.
real life.
And
If you have a stiff
yeah,
suspension on,
I never really put that together, to be honest with you. As soon as you said it, I was just like, Oh yeah. So that car may have not really been. I mean, granted, it still looks bad in that
Yes.
clip, but but now as you say that the reason and since you're in automotive aftermarket, I have a
Mhm.
feeling you probably know what you're talking about. Just gonna go ahead and give you that one. So yeah, so that's but that's that totally actually. I mean, it's still a funny video to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, but now that you say that, I can see that that's probably why it looks
Yeah.
so exaggerated.
Yeah.
But still, but yeah, go. I like I said, I just when you said that, I was just like, oh man, that makes so much sense, man. That's so much. That's awesome.
No, but there's some things that I really like about GT7 that I hope the Turn 10 team making the next motorsport adopt, like the fact that you can customize your driver suit and helmet. And I know that sounds silly because who really cares what the driver looks like? It's all about the cars and the handling. Yes, that's true, but at the end of the race when you're holding that trophy or you're walking away from, a third place finish or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
you at least want to see what your driver's going to look like. And yes, I totally get that sometimes you want to look like an astronaut or that you want to look like a clown
I
or
am an
any
astronaut,
of the
Fuzzy.
special driving suits that they offer, and they have like pre-built ones that are in different colors and things. But I want to be able to put like a Chevy racing suit on when I'm driving my Chevy cars, like my Vets and my Camaros and things like
Hmm.
that, or my Mazda racing suit when I got my MX-5 Cup series that I'm trying to incorporate in the racing. So being able to customize that would be a cool add-on. I don't think it would take anything away from motorsport. I mean, they do a lot of things right, and there's only a small number of things that I would like to see them, either implement or improve on with 8 or whatever they call the next one. But like the progression of time of day right
Hmm.
now for motorsport and even for GT sport, they had it where it was like you could only pick a certain time. Like you pick morning. Well, with GT Sport, you could pick morning, noon, or night. But there was like no progression. And with Forza, there's no progression. It's either a day race or a night race. And I would like to see them implement like a change time, whether you can accelerate it. So it's
Hmm.
like, even though it's a 10-minute race, it goes from daytime or like evening time to like, pitch black or something like that, or
Right.
early morning to afternoon. I think that would be a cool add-on,
That would be
and I would
neat.
like to see that occur in the next motorsport. But outside of that, motorsport pretty much nails a lot of the things I like about racing. There are some things that GT could improve on that they don't really offer a good mix for multi class racing. Like I said, if
Hmm.
you want to do prototype cars versus GT cars, it's kind of a mixed bag as far as how you get that to work. Um, but like just being a fan of like the old Trans Am stuff where it's like Camaro versus Mustang versus Challenger, setting
Yeah.
up those races on like a motorsport where it's like, oh, I got a bucket of Camaros, a bucket of Mustangs, because that's how they separate the classes of the cars you mix up,
Hmm.
and then a bucket for the Challengers. That's easy. Now, the one thing they could tweak is just make it so they're homologized, I guess is about the best way to put it. So they're all on the same level because stock, I think the way the game has it set up, a Challenger might already have a higher rating because I think they're using the supercharged Hellcats instead of the stock Challenger.
Mm,
Although I
right.
think they had like the 5.9 or the 5.7, not the 5.7, they had like the 5.9 or the 602s or something like that in there for one of them for like a special edition Challenger. But
Right.
to have that versus like a stock Mustang versus like a ZL1, it's like I want to have it all naturally aspirated
Okay.
or have them all
I
supercharged
was
so
gonna
they're
say
all at
more of
least
a level playing field, right?
exactly. But
Yeah.
that's like the only real thing I criticism I have on motorsport. The criticisms on GT is I love the look of the menus, but some of them, not that they're convoluted, but it's like to go from the garage to put on your different driver suit. It's in the same section, but you have to exit out of it and then go back in to pick that other section, as opposed to like, oh, I did an oil change. Now let me go change my driver suit. Oh, and let me change the wheels on the car. It's like all three of
Right.
them are three separate things in the same section that you have to, go in and out of the menu to to do. But
little quirks and tweaks that maybe they can work on for the next one, maybe to make
yeah,
it simplified. But I'm with you, man. If well, I guess that's not one of the knocks, but some of the menus are seem like a little complicated. It's like it seems like it takes a while sometimes before you're like, let's race.
yeah,
15 minutes later, we're racing,
yeah.
kind of thing. So Fuzzy, let's turn this up. I gotta ask, and we'll get into some more gaming here in a second. But I gotta ask your gamer tag. How did you come up with that?
All right. So the place I work in the automotive aftermarket,
Mm-hmm.
one of the guys in the warehouse gave everybody like a Belvedere nickname, and some of them were like not for me, but like for some people it was like John Deere Belvedere, Dinosaur Belvedere, Dinosaur or T-Rex Belvedere, because the one guy never really moved his arms; he kept his elbows, at his side, so he was like either called T-Rex or Dinosaur, and then John Deere
Right.
because he always wore a John Deere hat, and me Fuzzy because I always had like a beard, and like I
A little
before I
goatee on
went
your
completely
character,
bald, I tried to regrow the afro, not willing to let the receding hairline win. And
right?
then eventually I gave up. So I just went to shave my head bald, but still had a pretty puffy beard. So I was always known as like Fuzzy because of my beard.
That's
So it was
cool.
Fuzzy Belvedere. So I was like, you know what? That's kind of catchy. So just make that my gamer tag and started with it on PlayStation where it was like Fuzzy_Belvedere. And
Mm-hmm.
luckily Xbox allows you to put spaces. So
Yeah,
Fuzzy Space Belvedere. And everybody
that's
was like,
cool.
wait, what?
Yeah, double take. Yeah, and then sometimes here you are in a hardcore conversation with Mav on his show, and all of a sudden and Fuzzy, what do you think about and you're just like, okay, that's awesome. I love it though.
Yeah.
I love it. Cool. Well, that's I'm just curious as to how we really get in depth here and probe to find out what the answers to the questions that people really want to know, and how you got your name is answered today on this podcast. Thank you.
No problem.
Oh goodness. Well, let's kind of get to I guess before we start wrapping things up. But let's get to I guess what is your and I have a feeling it's going to be had something to do with racing. It's just a guess. I don't know, and it can be more than one. But what is your favorite game or franchise that you've played in your lifetime?
I have two.
Yep,
And
you're allowed.
I'm going to give Forza the nod, both Horizon and Motorsport, primarily because they fill gaps in multiple areas. Like Horizon
Right,
is that open world sandbox without really having to worry about being hijacked like you can in Grand Theft Auto, and
right.
then Motorsport just because being a racing fan, all the real tracks, some fantasy tracks, but mainly the real tracks I really like. They have a good bit of them. I hope they get Willow Springs here next. But they're just awesome games for relaxing or when I have that itch for competitive racing.
Hmm.
Those are my go-tos. But one other series that I've ever since 2016, I've been hooked on because it has a little bit of that appeal because of the military type aspect to it, even though it's not based in reality in any way.
Right.
But that Tom Clancy aspect of things with the Division, there's just something appealing about like especially after being a reservist, it's like, oh, you're on call when there's an emergency type of thing. And it's like, you're these agents as, the city is falling into disrepair because of this spread of a virus type of deal. And it's like, I was hooked on that game. And it's, you would think being a sci-fi fan as well, that Destiny would have hooked me. But I think playing it on the PlayStation, other than with my coworkers at the time,
Hmm.
I just couldn't find many people that were on mic, or it's like, all right, you load up for like not the raid, but like their strikes and things like that, and it's like nobody's talking, everybody's running past the enemies. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm trying to kill everything I see, and they already ran past everybody. I'm like, where am I supposed to go? And I don't
I'm
think
with
they
you.
had like the fast travel aspect to it. So I was like, I fell out of love with Destiny. But bear in mind, it was vanilla Destiny, and I eventually came back around with
Well,
Destiny 2. With once I
now that's
learned
got a
how
little
to
flavor.
upgrade stuff. But the Division for me, it hooked me instantly. Just knowing like, all right, It
Great
has
game.
those RPG elements I love in games. It
Mm-hmm.
has the cosmetics, which I know sounds silly. It's like, oh, I got a beanie hat, or I got I got a leather jacket and my sneakers and stuff, and I look like, like a tourist in New York type of thing. But hey, I'm saving, the world, or saving New York from, these guys that are trying to either burn everything they see, or trying to, steal everything that's not nailed
Right, right.
down.
And it
But
doesn't sound funny coming from the guy whose avatar has a racing helmet and goggles. Just saying.
no, but yeah, Division is that series that I hope Ubisoft learns that there is enough of a following that they need to invest time and money into that series, and not just leave it dormant like they've kind of done, which I kind of understand. They're working on Avatar, they're working on a Star Wars game.
Right.
Things get hectic, but the Division is in desperate need of some love. Like they probably should give it. I mean, just look at how well Destiny's doing, and yes, I know they're kind of competing for the same part of real estate, but I think Division has earned its place in a lot of people's hearts, and it's just sad to see it kind of get left
Well,
alone for so long.
hopefully it'll come around. I hope it
Yeah.
does. So let's get into one of our final questions, and then we'll kind of wrap things out. I always like to find out what is a game that you are most looking forward to that
Mhm.
that's been announced but not released, like as of this airing. So what something like, and because I've had a few people I've talked to that are kind of insiders kind of information. So obviously if if it's something that's not divulged, or we're not talking about that. We're talking about something that everybody would probably know about that's coming out. And
Th-
so what's something you're looking forward to?
There's quite a few that I'm looking forward to, but the top of the list right now is the next Motorsport from Forza.
Yeah.
Um, Even though I have Gran Turismo 7 and I'm enjoying the crap out of it right
Hmm.
now, once you get past the early parts, it opens up, and it's a lot of fun. But I'm definitely looking forward to Motorsport, because I know that they're going to improve on what 7 did, and that will be all that I need from them to kind of get me hooked on that as well. Starfield's up there because not as big of a sci-fi fan, but I am a pretty big sci-fi fan in the sense
Hmm.
that I'm more Star Trek than Star Wars, but I love them both.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. There's a couple other games that are coming here sooner, like Ghostwire Tokyo. It has that look
Oh
of
yeah.
like some of the Japanese horror films that me and my wife like The Ring was kind of loosely based on like a Japanese horror, and I can't remember the original name for it right
Right.
now,
Right.
but there's a lot of those same like demon or spirits that you see in that game, or like the
Hmm.
same ones that they have in a lot of their horror films. So it's like I want to see how that plays out, and it looks like the fact of it still, instead of it being like the limited ammo like Resident Evil style type of game, like some of the their Tango Studios previous games, like the Evil Within were kind of deal.
Hmm.
This one being more of like you can confront the demons with different powers and abilities. I'm looking forward to that because I like that more active, heads on or hands on approach or attack type of thing. But definitely looking forward to that. Um, there's a game called, I think, The Day Before, that it looks kind of like The Division with zombies, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
a new studio. It's either The Next Day or The Day Before, I think it's called. And it looks like it's set in a similar like New York, wintertime setting, but you
Hmm.
also have like upstate New York with cabins and things like that. So I'm kind of interested to see how that pans out. And then I think the last one, just because of the look, and I think it's caught everybody's attention, is Black Myth Wukong. Just because I like hack and slash games, and that looks like it's more of a hack and slash more than a Demon Souls style game.
Does look cool. Yeah.
So I definitely am looking forward to that. But that one I think is further further away than we hope. But definitely looking forward to Motorsport, followed by Starfield, and then followed by The Day Before. Those three are the big ones. I mean, also looking for Atomic Heart because that looks weird enough to the
It
point where
does. It does. It does.
it
Don't know
looks
when
like
that's
it's gonna
going
be
to come
a ton of
now,
fun.
but yeah, I'm holding out hope that at some point it gets released. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they just have like the release is supposed to be in 22 with a month that ends in burr. So that kind of
right.
narrows it down a little
Well,
bit.
it did, and then I think they've actually delayed all games because it's from that because it's coming.
Oh
It
yeah.
comes. It's a Russian studio.
Oh
So
yeah.
as of right now, as of
Well,
this recording, it's still stuff going on over there that
yeah.
probably that has a lot to do with it. But at some
Understandable.
point, I am hoping because shouldn't punish the creators because of
Yeah.
world leaders are idiots. But we don't do politics here. Just
Yeah.
throwing it out as a blanket. But but yeah, but Fuzzy man, it's awesome having you on here today. Let's kind of go through all the podcasts that you're on
Mhm.
and when they're air and also tell people how they can to get a hold of you. Plus, like I said, we'll have all your stuff in the description. But let's hear it
Mhm.
from you.
Well, I greatly appreciate this. It was awesome being on here and chit chatting with you.
Thanks, man. It's fun.
For those interested in my show appearances and things like that, you can find me on Breakfast with Boom on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time um, with his whole crew, Mr. Boomstick, Crispy Bomb, Dreadpool, Mr. Badbit, and Big Cloud Gaming. And he'll occasionally have some special guests or returning guests on there like VJ and um, I can't remember all the ones now, but
Oh
he
yeah,
usually has a pretty good lineup for Breakfast with Boom. Then on Saturdays, you'll see me with Mav and Just Key on FSP or Fun Speculation Podcast.
love that show.
Basically, yeah, it's like my second family with basically going over like all the different platforms because play a little bit on PC, play a little bit on Xbox, play a little bit on PlayStation. We all have our preferences, but we all try to keep it focused on the different gaming platforms as far as what's out now and things like that. And then later that evening, because of the time change and daylight savings time, you can find me on the Shop Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with PTK Blam and Pong Soul, and we usually have a special guest with us as well. And that's also my second family, where we're probably more Xbox centric. Probably because most of us have our preference for Xbox in general, but we also will discuss Nintendo and PlayStation as well, and things that are going on in like gaming news and things like that. But man, um, also for those that want to hear my ramblings on racing games, you can always follow me on Twitter. I try to keep it lighthearted as far as any of my takes on games and some of my predictions on stuff. But my Twitter handle is fuzzy_Belvedere. Just look for the cat and the hat type of thing where it's
Hmm.
like a racing hat, let's just say. But yeah, for the most part, you'll see some gameplay from racing games, and on occasion things like Insurgency, Sandstorm, or some not really first-person shooters as much, but that particular one has got me hooked. And then some fighting games with like King of Fighters and stuff like that. But man, I like playing a little bit of everything, but racing is about 90% of what I probably play.
Oh, it's great, man. It's a lot of fun, especially. I mean, it's challenging, and you can interact with other players.
Yeah,
Have headsets. I'm so with you on that. That was the only thing that kind of didn't enjoy as much on the PlayStation 4 compared to the Xbox because almost everybody had headsets. It used to come packaged in with the system. You put
yeah.
on your headset and you're good to go. So it's so much easier to communicate and get around if you're talking to somebody.
Oh
So
yeah.
and you can mute the little 3-year-olds that start yelling and
Or
talking
the
about
guy
your
that's playing
mother.
his music too loud in the background.
Right, right, right. Oh, or the latest death metal. And what in the world? Yeah. So I'll like some death metal. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Fuzzy, dude, thank you so much for being on here today. I really appreciate it, and I know that people are going to enjoy you on all the podcasts that you do. I know I do, and like I said,
Thank you.
I like your perspective. I think you're a good guy, man, and I hope you keep at it because you're it's I know it's retirement stuff, but yeah, I like it, man. It's like I said, you have a good perspective on gaming, and it's
Thank you.
enjoyable to
Thank you.
listen to. So thank you very much for being on today. I really appreciate that. Also, I want to point out to people that you can definitely check us out at outbreakpodcast.com is our website. And of course, you can obviously YouTube here. You please subscribe to our channel. Trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers so we can do some live shows. But for right now, we're at we're getting there. But that way, people can if the more people that let us know about it, we appreciate it. We've got a lot of big guests on, got some great guests on, but like I said, every person that we have on here is important because of their input and their angle. Because everybody's lives are different, and enjoy bringing this to people so they can check it out. So again, thank you everybody for being on for being here with us today. Thank you, Fuzzy, for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for joining this episode of Outbreak Gamers.